Well, I mean, that's where the game within the game is going to be. You got Jonathan Allen, and then Deron Payne, both two Alabama guys.
YouTube network. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis. Sorry for some technical issues, guys. Not on our end. This is a YouTube issue that really everybody's experiencing. So, we'll battle through. So for those of you that have hung with us, we appreciate that. And hopefully we won't have any more stoppages or any more shutdowns. Never know when those gremlins are getting in there, fellas, doing their little that elf that the Browns, their new mascot, that guy. I'm blaming him. It's all his fault. So anyway, yeah. So Barrett, Derek, and I were in the midst of kind of looking at the Eagles and Washington's matchup and just some key things. Barrett, let's real quick. Let's hop back to the point you were making regarding the interior of the defensive line for Washington versus the interior for the offensive line for the Eagles, because they're really the trouble spots for Washington. Like, they're the guys you got to really watch out for. So again, just one more time, just to sort of backtrack on that. What do the Eagles need to do with those guys?
Well, I mean, that's where the game within the game is going to be. You got Jonathan Allen, and then Deron Payne, both two Alabama guys. They're the ones that got into the fight last year against, when they were in the Eagles in the game. They were fighting amongst each other. Yeah, they are like the anchors of this whole defense. This is why the defense has had some success over the past couple of years, because of those two up front. Montez Sweat, he's kind of hobbled with an injury, but he's still playing. He's actually the best pass rusher, but I don't think that he's to a level. I mean, he's just like our Sweat, but I think our Sweat is a little better than he is right now because he's hobbled. I mean, we're talking about a guy when he left Mississippi State, he ran like a 4.3 at the combine. Crazy athlete at defensive line. But he's hobbled right now. I think our tackles will go out and he'll be taken care of. And I don't have much fear in James Smith-Williams. He's average at best. And it should be a tiptoe to the tulips with that our offensive line, our tackles against those two. But the two in the interior, they can mix it up. They can play. But they're one of those guys. They're the guys that, all right, they'll go full go, but then they'll take a couple plays off. Right. They're not the total dominating players that I've seen in the past that they were. So since they're not that good anymore, they play a bare front now. Bare front meaning Navajo front, meaning a 50 front. That's when you have a nose guard head up over the center, and both guards are covered with defensive tackles. They bring guys in, and that's how they run their defense to stop the run. And that's what they're going to do to try to stop the run of the Eagles. Cover everybody up. That means all five offensive linemen will be covered up with defensive linemen. And all right, we're banking on our five against your five, and we'll be able to get up and stop you. We need you guys to be stopped right there. You know what I'm saying, with those five guys. Now, once you pass those five guys, it's pay dirt, because I don't trust their linebackers being any good. They'll overrun plays. They're not physical guys. They're the weak link in this whole defense. So, once they get past them, it's over. And that's what happened with Swift and that Detroit offensive output. Yeah. They were able to drive block those guys, get it to the second level, and they were averaging like 6 or 7 yards a pop. So that's where the Eagles will have the most success. Our offensive line against their defensive line. It's going to be tough, though. Our guy Dickerson he's got to go out there and play. Sayamala's got to go out there and play. They'll have their hands full. But if we can control that defensive line, you can do anything you want to do from an offensive standpoint. Yeah, Derek, you're talking about a defense in Washington that gives up 29 per game, which is 29th, 157 on the ground, 28th, 247 in the air, 20th. I mean, across the board, this is not a good defense. I mean, I know the guys that Barrett just pointed out are legit, but other than that, this should be a game where you should be able to run on them and throw on them.
I was surprised Washington didn't spend more money in the offseason trying to fix the back end of their defense. They have been a sieve the first two games, the back seven on this defense. But I was figuring to the equation too, when it comes to a divisional games, everything that makes sense a lot of times doesn't make sense. Yes.
Yes.
You look at what you think is a strength, it becomes a weakness. What's a weakness becomes a strength. You base what you think a team did the previous game on what they should be able to do against, on paper, a weak opponent in the next game, and all of a sudden it flips the script on you. If I was a betting man, and thank goodness I don't bet because I'd be living in my car. If I was a betting man, I'd bet everything I have that the Eagles cover the spread and then some in this game. But because it's a division game and because of what we've seen across the board in the NFL the first 2 weeks, I think I know what's going to happen. I feel pretty good about knowing what I think is going to happen. But I always expect the unexpected when these teams get together. You just do. Carson Wentz could rise up and have one of those games like you're thinking, how in the world did he have this? How did he throw for 350 yards against this defense? His legs, I think we forget Carson also has the capability to escape.
Yeah.
He's taken some pounding in recent years, but he'll still step up and take off when he has to. And I think he's of the mindset now, and hopefully he does it. He may take off a little bit sooner than he wants because of the fear factor, especially if he gets hit early in this game. If he takes off and finds a seam, I don't like that because that means that Washington still has the ball and they're moving the chains. But he's also good at throwing on the run. He's pretty accurate when it comes to throwing on a run as well. And he's got some guys that can come back and get the ball. And I just don't understand how Cam Sims is not getting on the field because we really got to know Cam Sims last year. I understand you have a high-priced talent you just paid in Terry McLaurin. You have a first-round draft pick that you have in Jahan Dotson, and you have a proven veteran in Curtis Samuel. But I thought Cam Sims also proved his mettle. And when you're a team that's struggling like Washington, they've had to come from behind 2 games. One, they were successful. The other, they were not. You want any and every weapon you can have at your disposal to throw everything that you can at what now looks like an Eagles defense that has played rock solid. So we know the Eagles can cover man for man across the board. You need another guy. You need another X factor in this game in your arsenal. And I got a feeling Cam Sims may show up in this game somehow, some way.
Yeah, I just, just with Carson, he is going to make – there's going to be a spectacular play. There's going to be a play that reminds you of what he was in 2017. But I don't think we get through this game without there being some kind of boneheaded play where he's forcing something.
I agree.
Because he can't help himself, even when he's just playing anybody, like Detroit, any opponent, but especially against the Eagles. I just feel like he's going to be pressing. I'm really going to be interested to see where he starts this game. If he's not totally just jacked up and airmailing passes over hospital balls, whatever. Yes. That's the thing that's going to be like, if he's calm, I'll give him props, but I think he's going to come out jumpy in this game.
Well, if he comes out jumpy, it's because the Eagles defense is starting to tattoo him early. Yep. He's going to force him. He doesn't want to get hit. He's going to serve up a dying quail somewhere.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't want to get hit. And he thinks he sees the receiver open. He didn't wait a little longer to see if their receiver's truly open because he's worried about where the pressure's coming from. If you look at one of the sacks that Aiden Hutchinson had on him last week, it's because he rolled to his left right into Aiden. Hayden was still engaged with the tackle, and all of a sudden, Hayden looks up. He's standing right there, and he shed the tackle and just jumped on him. Right. He got one of the sacks there, and that's because Carson had nowhere to go. The middle had collapsed. He tried to roll out of the pocket, and then he stopped. Instead of moving his feet, he stopped and allowed Hayden to sack him again. But I can see that happening with this defense, hopefully. But my bigger concern is I still don't know what to expect from Jonathan Gannon. I would think after what he did last night, bringing the pressure from different angles, bringing it 35, 40%, that will be a consistent part of his defensive design from here on out for the rest of the season. When you look at an Aaron Glenn has given you 2 samples of what their defense is going to do for the whole season. They are going to come at the quarterback from all angles. With Jonathan Gannon, because I've seen two different defenses play, I don't know what to expect from Jonathan Gannon. If Jonathan Gannon goes with just an exclusive 4-man front, I don't like that because I'm still not comfortable with this Eagles 4-man front, even against this bad Washington offensive line, of getting home enough to get enough pressure on Carson. I think you need to bring an extra man, maybe an extra 2 men to get some hits on Carson to make him get rid of the ball a lot sooner.
How much, Barrett, of a factor is it that they are familiar with his tendencies, his traits, whether it's the defensive line for practicing against him or the offensive line for practicing with him? Certainly a scouting report from Stoutland, guys who have been here with the team through a couple different regimes and whatnot. do we make too much of that sometimes as fans and media members? Is that a big deal as a player?
No, because you knew him when he was becoming the player that he is right now, through his bumps and bruises. Those guys that played with him, the Kelseys, the Lanes, the Seamalus, they know what makes him tick. They know what he likes and what he doesn't like. And best believe he's going to sit down and talk to Fletcher Cox, who practiced against him for a number of years. Guys like Sweat, guys like BG, who know who Carson is and how to get at Carson. They realize that Carson can be rattled a lot, but they also know this side of Carson that nobody else knows, and that competitor that he is. They know how much this game means to him, and they understand that they have to make sure that they stomp it out early, or it could be a long, long game for this Eagles defense. So the intel that we have from Carson's best years, his best seasons, his best years, we're here in Philadelphia. And those guys know fully how good Carson can be, and they also know how to get in his hip pocket, how to get in his mind, make him start thinking about things, make him start seeing those ghosts.
Okay.
So I think it bodes more in our favor than it does in Carson's favor, knowing this defense or knowing what they're going to do on defense, because it's a totally new defense than what Carson had here. But that's still the same Carson that was here in Philadelphia.
You have very few guys. You have very few guys on that defense that really know Carson. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, they can relay information on what they think is the best way to attack them. But a lot of those guys on that defense weren't here during that heydays of 2017. So they're relying on intel from Fletcher and Brandon Graham on, hey, man, you can do this against Carson. If you do this, he'll do that, and then he can go out and do it. That's a big help.
Yeah, from a secondary standpoint, there's nobody was there when he was there. From a linebacker standpoint, there's nobody that was there.
Yeah. Wait, was Maddox there?
Yes.
Madison won Super Bowl, did he?
No, but he was there for Carson's last maybe 2 years.
Last few years?
Oh, for that trash year. Well, he was trashed in. He didn't see the good Carson.
No, but he was there. I think he was there for 20.
Yeah.
Possibly 19. So he was there.
But he doesn't know the good Carson is from those years into that 2017.
Yes, agreed.
2018.
Agreed.
The good years, that's when you saw the magical Carson.
Yep.
Everybody since then has seen the terrible Carson. So from an offensive lineman standpoint, you best believe he's over there talking. Hey, remember Carson likes to, because every player has their little idiosyncrasies that they do. Some quarterbacks, they like to fade to a certain side. I mean, they do it unconsciously. They'll fade to a certain side, or they'll fade to what they think is the best side. They do it unconsciously. So Lane will know, hey, Carson used to fade to his side all the time. Yeah. He would always fade to his right because he had Lane over there. So he felt comfortable with sliding over there as opposed to sliding to his backside. Because back then it was Jason it was Jason Peters
at the
end.
And
then it was Big V.
Yeah.
And he didn't really trust Big V. So he would, when he dropped back, but he dropped forward, towards the right side instead of dropping backwards towards the left side, usually where your best offensive lineman is, to your left tackle. Well, so those are little things.
Well, how do you guys feel about what Big Sil said a few moments ago? If Reddick is not a factor in this game versus that old line, we will know why he's on his third team in 3 years.
Yeah, you heard what I just said. I said this should be a game where he should be lined up. Yeah. I mean, and you should. That's what teams do all the time. Yeah. All right, where's the fish at? Who's got him this week? Saying, oh, I got to get my turn at going against the fish, the worst guy on the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? I want to go against that guy right there. And this should be who the fish is Cosme. He should be the guy that they should go after. He should be the guy that they should send Hassan Reddick to. So Hassan Reddick should be playing to his left side, the right side of the offensive line. He should be lined up over there and should let him go. Look, go hunt. Go get it. You should have at least a sack and a half against this guy.
Yeah, look, I want to see him. I want to see him be disruptive, even if it doesn't result in a sack. I want to see a hit where balls popped in the air or something like that, where he's just hammering Wentz. Whatever. I need to see this guy. He's been a non-factor for 2 games. And Nick Sirianni can talk all he wants about how close he is. I don't care about close. I want him to get there. He's a high-paid. He was the biggest free agent signing they made. So make a play. It's no more excuses for him at this point. All right, Derek, I want to hit you with this first because you covered and you were in that locker room every single day, basically for his entire tenure. If you could sum it up in a few words, what went wrong with Wentz? Why did it not work out here? And there's a lot. I know there's a lot here. It's a lot to unpack, right? But if you could just hit me with sort of the highlights of what you think went wrong, I'd be curious.
Isolation. Plain and simple isolation. Separating himself from the masses. It's okay to have a small group of guys. Every player has a small contingent of guys in the locker room they hang out with, they talk to, they jaw jack with. But when you're the face of a franchise, when you are the leader of the pack, you have to embrace everybody. You have to be all encompassed. And even if you don't hang out with them outside of the locker room, you have to make them feel like, okay, he's one of the guys. Carson had his own little clique, and he stuck to his own little clique. He wasn't very engaging in a lot of ways to everybody, unless you did some of the things that he did or basically believed the way he believed. He didn't go out of his way in a lot of cases to embrace other players, and they felt that separation. And then, of course, in the latter stages of his tenure, once he became Rogue Carson, it really turned a lot of people off because a lot of the decisions he made on his own turned out for the worse instead of the better. And as you heard Carson say earlier in the week, I could have been a better teammate. And I think that hits it right on the head. I could not a better athlete, but a better teammate. Translation, I should have gone the extra yards to be more engaging to everybody in that locker room. Football is a fraternity. You don't have to like the guy that you're playing with outside of the locker room. You don't have to go to dinner with them. Your kids don't have to play together on weekends. But when you're in a locker room, you have one common bond. You are the main cog in terms of fusing everybody together to make them feel like one.
Head honcho.
You're the head honcho. You look at a guy. I look at quarterbacks, Jim McMahon, Brett Favre, quarterbacks like that. They went after everybody. They were class clowns. They teased everybody. They made everybody feel part of that team. And everybody looks up to the quarterback. When you're a high-profile player, everybody looks up to that quarterback. And that wasn't Carson. Carson was very stoic in a lot of ways, didn't open up in a lot of ways, and a lot of people like, hey, man, what's wrong with this dude? And then, of course, there was a reported incident where almost came to fisticuffs with one or two players in the locker room as well. And that caused division because a lot of the players took the side of the other player more so than Carson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was all critiqued in the front office. As we move forward, do we really have the right guy to run this team? Now, I'm sure for the Eagles, because this started happening after they gave him that big contract, so they were somewhat handcuffed. Do we really want to eat this big salary? We moved up. We gave up a lot to get him. We just gave him a lot of money. And instead of getting better, it's getting worse. Is this the guy we really want to be our leader moving forward? And then all of a sudden, you got an answer when they draft this kid named Jalen Hurts in the second round, who was projected to go third, fourth, or fifth round by most draft experts. They draft him in the second round. And then all of a sudden, a year later, he's gone. Carson's gone. And they knew they were going to have to eat that $30+ million cap hit. And they were more than willing to do it just to rid themselves of him. So that should tell you exactly what they thought of Carson at that point in time of his career. Because this is not an organization that likes to – Howie Roseman is not a person who likes to be under the dark cloud of a heavy cap.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yeah.
but that just tells you how badly they want to get rid of him.
That's an admission of two mistakes. One, moving up to draft him. Two, giving him the extension. So there's a lot of egg on your face. Not only you cap strap, but there's all that too. Barrett, how much of it was watching Nick Foles do what he did psychologically, standing on the sideline?
It crushed him. It crushed him because from that point on, when he had to go to work and he see that statue sitting outside of his job place where he saw the second team quarterback get more love than him, And like it or not, he wants all the same love that you know, he feels as though the city slighted him because he's the one that got him to the Super Bowl. He didn't win it, but he got him there. And nobody talked about him getting it there. All they wanted to talk about was the mere fact that he that you know, Nick Foles will be ever loved because of he won the Super Bowl. And he just couldn't take it. He couldn't get that out of his mind. He could not be the beloved of this city. So he felt he had to leave the city, you know. He couldn't go to work. I mean, you're talking about a guy that, even though he acts like he doesn't want to be the man, he wants to be the man. He wants to be that dude. He wants everybody to clamor over him. He wants that. He wants that justification. And he didn't get it here. He didn't get a statue. He didn't get any of that. You know, and then what Derek was saying about the guy, almost get into a fight with somebody. The guy that he almost got into a fight with was one of the most beloved guys on the team who never messed with anybody. Loved everybody. Everybody loved him.
He didn't say a lot, but everybody loved him because he was engaging to everybody. And let's put it like this: he's probably the smallest dude in the locker room.
Yes.
Okay. And when that happened, man, that caused a division. And most people were on the side of that dude instead of your franchise face. And you know what, Barrett, to add to what you were talking about, to pour more salt in the room, how do you think it felt he had to come to work on game days and see a statue of the backup quarterback outside the stadium?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that is wild.
Saying, yeah.
But how much? I'll ask both of you guys. Whoever wants to jump on it. Look, he took a physical beating. The knee was shredded that night in L.A. The back, he had other stuff. Rib, whatever. We could go on and on and on. The concussion against the Seattle with Clowney, like that too. I mean, I think he was a specimen in 16 and 17, and then maybe all of a sudden, even though you're not old, you can't do the same stuff physically you could do. You can't escape some of those jams, those 5-car pileups that you were somehow wiggling out of, in the middle of nowhere and then throwing a 60-yard dart to somebody. Like that too could play in there.
Against Washington.
It was against Washington. Ironically enough, it was. You're right, Barrett. How much is that?
It has everything to do with he's not. How can I say it? He's not a He's not a confident guy, but he's not unconfident. He needs that affirmation. He needs somebody to pat him on the back. And when you're not doing that, it's almost like, oh, you're not the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you don't believe in me. And I've been around players like that. Me, I kept my head down to keep work because I knew nobody, nobody ever likes, somebody 100%. You know what I'm saying? So I understood that. But he needed that type of affirmation. When nobody gave that to him, he just, it just sent him in another direction. I don't think he's not a bad guy necessarily. He's not a bad guy at all. He's not a malicious guy either. He's not going to back talk anybody. But he's very confident in what he thinks he knows.
Yeah.
But not confident in himself.
You got to be confident in yourself to maybe look inward sometimes.
Exactly.
To figure out the things that you don't know. And I'm not sure that's him.
Yeah. Well, I think now is that time. I agree. I don't think he looked at it as such while he was here.
Right.
And when he got a second chance with his mentor in Indianapolis, and then all of a sudden he had to endure the embarrassment of being ushered out the door in Philly and then quickly ushered out the door in Indianapolis. And then all of a sudden the front office publicly, which I still can't get over because it's an unwritten policy in the football fraternity. There's certain things you just keep in house. Even when they go bad, you're not the one to tell the story. You let somebody in the media tell the story. But this came right from the mouth of the head honcho in Indianapolis and what they thought of him.
The guy writing checks.
There you go. And I think what really hurt Carson the most in his career was that he was a god in high school. He was a god in college. And he gets to the pros and people roll out the red carpet for him here because everybody wanted him in Philadelphia coming out of college. Mm-hmm. And Howie Roseman moved up to get him. And his first year, you saw the potential. Second year, he was on that MVP torrid pace. And then all of a sudden, he couldn't finish what he started. And then the next year, when that offensive line was decimated by injuries, he got blamed for a lot of the stuff that went wrong. And he made a lot of mistakes. And it bounced back a little bit in 2019, but it wasn't, the love affair just wasn't the same with him. Yeah. And I don't think he took that well in terms of people talking negatively about him. He wasn't used to that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of athletes like that don't handle negative criticism well. When they've been put on a certain pedestal their whole lives and they can't wait to play and get paid and Monday Night Football, primetime stuff, and all of a sudden, people not embracing you the way they did in high school and college. And that doesn't sit well with a lot of athletes, man, in any sport.
Yep, that's very real. That's very real. Well, look, I think there's a parallel to be drawn with Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons. We talked about some of the Ben Simmons stuff yesterday on the podcast with JJ Redick. My takeaway from that was he still doesn't get it. He still doesn't blame himself for not shooting enough. He doesn't blame himself for the dunk. I mean, yes, he said, "Oh, should I have dunked it?" In hindsight, yeah. No, you should have dunked it in real time.
No, he said I should have ripped it.
Yeah, ripped it. Whatever. Punched it, I think is what he said.
Punched it.
But there's also the I didn't get enough support. Like, at what point do you look in the mirror? And both guys forced their way out. Carson forced the trade.
He got a couple $100 million to come on, man. Come on, man. I mean, he got over $100-some million, man, to show confidence in you. That's the confidence. That's all the confidence I would have needed.
Right.
Give me that. Give me that max deal.
Give me that check.
This is what drove me crazy. So he's asked about the lack of shooting and the lack of willingness, and he says, "What do you want me to do? You want me to defend? You want me to be the point guard? Or do you want me to shoot?" Well, yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. I want you to do all of the above. You imagine if Steph Curry was like, "Hey, I'm bringing the ball up, man. I'm playing point. I can't shoot. What do you want me to do? I'm passing the ball." You know what I mean? It's just the absurdity of it. And this guy wants everything catered to him, and there's no accountability. There just isn't. And I think there's some of that with Carson. Like we talked about it earlier in the week, where when things were really going bad, it was, we got to do a better job as an offense. I want him doing that if things are going well. Like, hey, we did a great job on that. But if things aren't going well and it's clearly on you, own it, man. Just say, hey, I should have never thrown that ball. It was a poor decision. If I could get that one back, I would, or whatever. I felt like he never laid it on himself.
Well, that's what it is, and some players are like that, man. Some players can go back and get some perspective on the situation. Like one guy that did that, and I had lost a lot of respect for him. In fact, I wanted to whoop his ass for a little while. I mean, whoop his butt. I'm sorry, Mom.
Mrs. Brooks, he did it again.
He made a mistake.
Sorry. I said sorry. See,
heat of the moment.
But
stop covering him, Rob.
Big Ben changed who he was. He changed the whole scenario of who he was. He became a great dude. He said he's a great teammate. You know what I mean? But I mean, at first, it wasn't that way.
Yeah, he was going through a lot of stuff.
Exactly. So he got a lot of, and God will put things in your life, you know what I'm saying, to give you some perspective. You know what I'm saying? He needed to slow down, and he didn't slow down fast enough. So God will, make things happen. He won't make it happen to you, but he'll allow things to happen to you. And that's what happened. I was there when he had the motorcycle accident. I was there when, stuff happened, in the restaurant. I was there for a lot of that. And he totally changed his life, became a better person, became a better man, and during the process became a better player too.
And somebody got in his ear. The right people finally got in his ear, and he listened. And that's where Carson is in his career right now. Somebody or somebodies that he trusts have to constantly get in his ear. And talk to him. And he has to see for himself, because he's at that critical point of his career now. Do you want to be a frontline quarterback, or do you want to be thought of as a guy who was refusing to change, and it cost you long-term possibility of being a starting quarterback in the National Football League for one franchise, or a journeyman, quick fix type quarterback the rest of your career?
Yeah, and a guy who becomes a gypsy, who's just bouncing from team to team to team. Absolutely. And you get no stability, and and no continuity at any of those kind of places. Yeah, for sure. Look, I think it's all valid, and there are definitely comparisons, and there were such high hopes for both guys. When Ben Simmons goes number 1 overall, the Eagles trade up to get Wentz at 2, and neither guy here now, and their futures are big question marks going forward for sure. And look, I think the Eagles have done a nice job of very quickly turning this thing around. I mean, they pivoted off of Wentz, off of Doug, off of a 4-win season, and all of a sudden, it looks like they have themselves poised to potentially make a playoff run here, like a deep playoff run. Sixers, I don't know right now. I don't know what the East is going to look like. Now Boston loses their coach for the year to go along with some of the other stuff that went down. Brooklyn potentially is very combustible. But I don't know. I honestly don't know with the Sixers. I feel a lot better about the Eagles than I do the Sixers. If I'm being honest, I feel a lot more confident.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, about the Eagles and the Sixers. Yes, I do.
I agree with that. We think the 76ers bench is going to be stronger, deeper, more versatile, but we don't know. We haven't seen it yet. We have our suspicions about Doc Rivers being able to lead a team over the hump. What's Doc Rivers' biggest black eye? He can't get past the second round in playoffs.
And B can't stay healthy late in seasons.
Yeah. Your franchise player is bound to be injured by the time the playoffs, when you tip off the playoffs. He's bound to miss a game or two here or there at a crucial juncture. Okay. I'm not really confident with the 76ers right now. I think they're going to be a very competitive team, an exciting team. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're one of the best teams in the East. I mean, they'll be one of the top 5 teams in the East, but I don't know if they'll be a good enough team to really get to the conference finals, or more importantly, get to the NBA finals.
It could work out where they're absolutely competing for a conference championship.
I think they are. I think they are. I think their roster is put them in a situation where they will be competing. I mean, come on, man. I mean, look at what they have now.
Okay,
they haven't gotten out of the second round with this
exactly.
Score.
Even
because they didn't have what they needed, though.
Okay, even without Boston's head coach, are they a better team on paper than Boston? A deeper team than Boston? Are they a better team than Milwaukee? No. Than Boston?
Yes.
No.
Yes, they're a better team. They are a better team than Boston. Yes, they are.
Oh my goodness.
They are a better team than Boston.
I don't think so. I know
so.
I don't think so.
Because they got 2 shooters. 2 shooters and a guy that plays defense.
2 shooters?
2 shooters and a guy plays defense.
That team plays great team concept. What are you talking about, defensive concept? Boston was one of the best defensive teams in the league. They weren't just a 2-man team last year.
Yeah, the way they finished last season was amazing.
Everybody contributed on that team.
They got smashed. Well, I mean, they finished. They did. Yeah, they did to the finals. I'm talking about now, as they're constructed right now. I think that we have very comparable team to them right now. Very comparable team. I know that we'll be a lot more competitive from our lineup right now.
Did Boston lose any significant pieces from that team?
No, but did they gain?
They'd have to. It's still the nucleus is still young enough to get back.
If you're staying the same, that means you're starting to get bad.
If they were an older team, Barrett, I would say, okay, that they could be a problem because they're an older team. That's not an old team.
This is why I'm saying with the additions, DeAnthony Melton.
What's he gonna give you, 5 or 6 points a game?
No, he'll get you more. He'll get it.
Maybe
he's gonna light it up from 3.
I think they improve themselves, Barrett. But the question is, can Embiid hold up? Is James Harden going to look like the old James Harden?
All things are pointing towards
and
that.
Doc Rivers, as Derek pointed out.
Do you trust Doc Rivers in a big game situation?
We won. There you go again. Give me a
speechless.
There you go. We want to talk about Doc, man. We want to talk about Doc,
133 Eastern.
We wouldn't talk about Doc, man. We talk about players, man. We got better, man. I just think that
who pulls the strings? The head coach pulls the strings, right?
I'm just saying, yeah. We kept Tobias Harris. We got Joe. All right, man. All right.
Okay. All right,
man.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. 2:15. Brian Mitchell is going to be joining us. We're looking forward to talking to Brian, as we always are. One thing you get with Brian is, you get 2 things. You get opinions and you get honesty. Okay, make no mistake.
Man,
Brian brings it. So we'll be talking to him.
I can't wait to talk to B. Mitch.
Yeah, that'll be coming up in the 2:00 hour. We will dig into the big games of the week, which there's some huge ones. Little info on Sean Payton. The Ravens make a move, and a little bit later, I have now accumulated, let's see, 2 on this dates, which I really like. There's killer birthdays, and I found another amazing movie from this date. We're actually stacked in the birthdays, dates on this date, and movies. So we'll do that a little bit later.
Hold on, but before we go to break,
yes,
can we get the stream? The stream, come on now, let them know.
What?
Look at the roster of the 76ers right now.
Oh, here we go.
Look at them right now. That roster looks a lot better. We got defenders now. You know, we got really good defenders now. We didn't have that before. We have really good defenders now. You know, Tucker. We have guys that can go make some things happen, man. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Better or good enough?
I did see that's what,
better,
thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. But but you said Rob, but what Rob said, and I love what he said.
We'll come back. We'll talk about when we come back.
Better or good enough? There's a big difference.
But see,
it didn't take much to be better than what they were last year.
Yeah, we're all right. We can talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about when we get back.
Okay.
Barrett wants to go start looking for stats now. That's what he wants to do. Y'all know him like a book. Barrett's gonna start looking up stats and stuff now.
Oh my
I'm just
God.
saying, you always got to bring in Doc, man. Doc wasn't bothering you, man.
The Doc alone. Doc had an interesting last weekend.
Yes.
So anyway, all right. So we will do all of that, including the Phillies, who won a remarkable game last night. Rare feat in this day and age, a 1-0 win, especially over a team like the Braves with that offense. So we'll talk about that as well when we get back. Again, Brian Mitchell on the 2 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration, because Pro Action Restoration is the place that you call if your home or your business or a property that you own has any kind of issues, whether it's fire, smoke, mold damage, whatever the case may be. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. I've gone through this. I've told you this story. It was a weekend. My parents, we got nasty rain. My parents' basement was flooding on a consistent basis, and it finally was just such a mess that they couldn't control it. I'm over there trying to stop the bleeding, so to speak. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call Pro Action Restoration. And Pro Action Restoration got right out there on a Saturday. They cleaned it up. The crew was professional. They were clean. The price was reasonable. Every box was checked. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. Again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.